Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about physical symptoms involved in anxiety in relation to that post that I just put up talking about the physical symptoms that I experienced in my own journey. Now, with physical symptoms, what happens is you've been suffering from anxiety for a while, right? So your body has got sensitized. It's got used to the fact that it's got very used to the sort of sensitized nerves that you've been anxious for a long time. It's got used to that fired up. And that's not coming down for the moment because the body is still scared of something. So the body is still pumping stuff away. It's like anything. If you have been sick and you've had the flu, it takes you a while to start feeling yourself again, because even when you're not sick and you've got still some symptoms, you still notice them because they're still there. However, then when the symptoms go, you've then got no anxiety that's there, no flu symptoms, but you're so alert, you're watching internally like a hawk. Every sensation, every feeling, everything you have. The same as why with the COVID virus, people with anxiety are so tuned in to how they feel that they can feel every single symptom that you can imagine for COVID, because anxiety and OCD will mimic any of this stuff. So it will mimic it identically. So you'll be utterly convinced you've got COVID from feeling tired, feeling fatigued, feeling sore throat, feeling dizzy, feeling anything, right? Not those are specific COVID symptoms, but the obvious ones, sort of cough, loss of smell. OCD can mimic that very well. So you've got to be aware of its tricks here, because it's gonna play those. It's very aware of how you are thinking. So the sensitized nervous system you can sort of tune into, you can feel anything. Even now with no anxiety, if I wanted to feel something, say for example, I'd worked late and I was feeling tired, I could feeling what feeling tired feels like quite quickly, because I could sense that, and if I was scared of that, it would feel 10 times worse. If you're scared of fatigue, if you're scared of dizziness, you will feel it more than ever. It's gonna create that. And I think that's key, because especially with physical symptoms, you've been many times where I'd be so fatigued, and then sort of 10 seconds late, like for hours, and then I'd be like, I don't know how I'm going to even get through the day. And then I would sort of suddenly maybe change my relationship a bit with it, or be distracted a bit, and then I wasn't concerned too much about being tired, and I suddenly felt full of energy, like I had energy for the whole day. So it can move around and trick you in many various ways. It's a very sneaky disorder how this is. And so you've got to be aware of that. I used to get very frustrated with physical symptoms because, like, let's say in our lives, we have certain anxiety symptoms that we can't see. So certain ones like you may have a bit of a headache. You may feel a bit tired, a bit lethargic. You may feel those. You may sense those sensations, but you don't see them. They're not so seen. But then when you have things like massive weight loss or another symptom that you can see, then it can be very frustrating for the person suffering from anxiety, because they then start thinking, oh my God, now my whole life is deteriorating, all my physical health is deteriorating because of how I feel now. In this moment, I can feel it, and I just look at what's happened to me. And that can be, losing hair is one of those, especially with women. When women start losing hair because of anxiety and stress, that one is super frustrating, because people you start notice it coming out, and then people are like, oh my God, my whole life is falling apart. Oh, this couldn't be any worse. How has this happened? And then it gets exaggerated. They will see more hair than they think, where they were losing little bits of hair at times, then they'll notice more, and then you can feel your whole body's breaking down. It's very scary a lot of the time, those things. But also, it's just focusing in on symptoms, things that we notice. People often come to me and they'll say, I feel horrendous. I feel the worst I've ever felt. Oh God, look at this. I've got the worst a particular symptom. And then I say, well, have you ever had that symptom before? Yes, I've had that symptom once or twice, but never as bad as this. But then if you actually compared how bad it was in the past, there wasn't much difference, especially with weight gain and weight loss. It's very easy for that. People, because of the link to cancer, people often think, shit, I've definitely got cancer right now if I'm losing weight like this. I used to think that when I had the rapid weight loss, I used to definitely think something was up. I thought, how could anxiety do this? But I was reading a post in a forum about a month ago. There was a guy talking about how bad his hay fever was. It was so bad he wanted to move to another country. He had all his doors shut. He didn't leave the house for weeks. He thought he wouldn't be able to bear it. He thought he couldn't breathe. I've had very bad hay fever in the past, but exasperated by anxiety. And I can relate very much to that. Not to the extent of him, but very much. And then one day he went, fuck it, I'm going to go out, I'm going to live my life, and even with this, I'm going to feel this all day long. Okay, so he went and said, I'm going to go and do this. I've had enough of this. I'm going out, I'm living my life with it, whatever, who cares? And he said within a few days, he was instantly living better than he'd ever lived. And instantly better with that allergy. Because he was writing underneath it, it's unbelievable how convincing this bloody thing is, how it can hijack physical symptoms and sensations and make you feel horrendous. And it does that. It's so clever. How because it's all in tune to the nervous system, how it manipulates that. I mean, I had many times, I remember being in an ambulance, I thought my whole throat was closing up, and I was so convincing, as anxiety sufferers are, to the people in the hospital, in the ambulance. They were convinced I was in trouble, because that's how convincing it is. OCD sufferers are so good at wording things, not out of a deliberate attempt, but just because of the way they're so scared that they sort of close all the doors to any health problem to the person they're speaking to. So it sounds like they're absolutely convinced. People speak to me and they're like, they've got a complete knowledge of the disease, more than a specialist, and they speak just all the symptoms like there is no chance it's not anxiety. But only when you're aware of this, you're aware of this world that they're living in with this, that when you're aware of that, then you can see instantly. And I always say, well, what have we considered anxiety here? Oh, no, it can't be anxiety. It has to be this. And I say, all right, well, let's have a look at this situation. Let's have a look, really. Is it definitely anxiety? Is it, what else could it, is it definitely this thing? What else could it be? Could you accept this? Could you be at peace with this? How bad could this be? Going down that path. It makes a huge difference. But the problem is people get utterly convinced, which is the nature of OCD, absolutely convinced that they are stuck forever like this, in this condition, never going to change. That is the way it is. They've got this disease. There's no way out. It's not OCD. I felt like that with one of my worst health symptoms, which was a health symptom that wasn't related to anxiety. I had one of my tonsils was enlarged on one side. I went to a doctor and he said, how long has that been enlarged? And I said, probably about 6-7 months. I thought it was just some kind of anxiety. He said, no, it's very serious. You can't leave a thing like that. And I went for a load of tests and I was very frightened that I thought I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the doctors were putting me through various tests to check that, and I was very scared about that. But I was rational at that time, so I wasn't as scared anywhere near of what I would have been with OCD, but still wasn't a very nice experience, because I went back into the irrational thinking in that moment. I didn't always keep the rational up. When I did keep the rational up, I was at peace, but often I went back down the old sneaky irrational cycle that we tend to do. And what happened? Well, when I was in that situation, I was absolutely convinced I've got it. No way it could be anxiety. No way. Well, no, that wasn't anxiety, but I was saying I was absolutely convinced that I was gonna die. That there was no chance that even if I had it, that I would recover. That there's no chance that even if I had chemo or radio, if it even came to that, or not even starting from the beginning steps, that it could be another kind of thing, not just the cancer. Right. That's what we do. I can go into a doctor's even today. And if I go in, they say, we'll order this test. Are you free now? We can do this test now. I still think in that moment I'm going to die. I am not anxious, chronically anxious about it. But I still have that thought. That thought comes in. Do I give a shit that whatever's going to happen? No. If it happens, it happens. Maybe it does happen. Maybe I do die. We are all going to die. I do not have the anxiety reaction, the chronic anxiety I used to have in the past relating to health. But when I'm in that situation, it does try and enter. That is a situation. You find, even Albert Ellis, in his book about his life, he talks about how he used to be sort of on a hospital bed going into an operation, and he was trying to go through his rational beliefs, because in those moments, no matter how stoic you are, no matter how rational you are, it's still sometimes you're going to feel it. And you can be, unless you're someone who's got like a major disease and you're in and out of operations 20, 30 times in the year, and you're in and out, and life's like that, living all the time. At that point, you're so used to those exposures over and over and over. Usually those people can be calm going into all of them because they've just been so used to that for so long. The behavioural reaction's down. The same as our reaction to COVID now tends to be down because we've known it for a while. So it's very important to think of these things, how this thing can manipulate all of this and how it does that, you know? You're not trying to make yourself into some robot that's not scared of anything. It's to become more accepting, to become genuinely better at these things, more accepting in general. But don't expect to be some kind of like never scared sort of character that never has any anxiety. Otherwise you're setting yourself up for disaster because you're trying to make things too rigid. You're trying to bolt down unconditional self and life acceptance like your life depends on it this second, and that's the counterproductive to anxiety. So you don't want to go down that route. What else did I want to say about physical symptoms? Physical symptoms would be anything. Okay, you've got to get used to rolling with them. I had so many, as you can see in that list, that it was like living with a disease because you were just all the time having them. And you're going to get things in life. You know, life's going to go like that. Just because you get over anxiety doesn't mean you're not going to get something else. You know, in my family, I have my father has a narcolepsy, and so it's a sleep disorder. My grandma, she had very bad Alzheimer's. She died. She got from Alzheimer's, and so what could I could think, well, my genes are not fantastic. I've had OCD, I've had GAD, I could develop other things. Well, so be it. I have to roll with it. You know, you're not going to just recover from OCD and have a clean bill of health. That's what people think. They think, oh, I've had OCD, that means I can't get anything else. It's not some like godlike demand where they go, yes, you can have, you've had OCD, that's enough for you. Okay, that person can have this. It doesn't work like that, unless we're bringing in a religious concept, but we won't go into that. But I'm saying that you can have OCD and you can have a disease, you can have anything. Okay, you can have that, and that's what's going to happen. So you've got to roll with, well, you might recover, you might get something else. I remember when I just recovered, I herniated a disc in my neck, and that was pretty tough. So, and I was like, oh my God, how bad is life? I only just got through this, and now I've got this. And that's how it goes. You've got to roll with it. You've got to really learn to roll with it. There's a good video for that on my YouTube channel is with Alfie, where I'm speaking with him, who had stage 4 bone cancer and recovered. I mean, imagine what it was like for him. He'd been going through an intensive health OCD coaching program with me, and then suddenly developed bloody bone cancer. I mean, what do you think he thought? He thought our world was out to get him. It was a disaster. Nothing could be any worse. So that's what we've got to roll with. That's what happens in life. We get these things. They're going to be, we're going to have difficult situations that are going to come out of nowhere. Anything else I wanted to cover on that today? I don't think so. I just wanted to come on here quickly and sort of give a bit of a video talk in relation to physical symptoms, as I posted all about those ones that I was suffering from. And look, you're going to be predispositioned to certain ones, even when you get better, okay? So, if I get very anxious or I attend a funeral, sometimes when I attend a funeral, and it's quite emotional, I feel some of those physical symptoms rear their head because it's remembered in the nervous system after so long of being stuck. So I could notice when I'm at a funeral just trembling a bit when I'm very, very sad and emotional at a funeral. So it can be queued up there in the background, remembered. So you don't want to be looking for absolute perfection in your recovery journey. It's like somebody who recovers from alcoholism. You don't hear of somebody who's recovered from alcoholism 20 years not drinking, and then they're out in the bar and having fun. It doesn't work like that. It's a disorder you're living with. So you won't be suffering from chronic guilt and chronic anxiety, so it affects your life 99.99% whatever of the time, but you're going to still have some little things occasionally. Not always. Some people don't. But often they will be slightly there. You can get rid of them completely if it's often with meds. Some people without side effects, the meds sort of dull that, but then they tend to often lose another area that they might want, like in terms of sexual sensitivity or whatever. And for someone like me who barely is affected by this at all on a day-to-day basis, certainly wouldn't need to go down a med route. But for some people, I've worked with people that have had OCD, very bad OCD, very bad clinical depression, bad GAD combination for a long time, and they've taken meds, recovered, and then been very good for a long period. But they've always stayed with meds, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no judgment on that. That's another thing I want to talk about. There's no judgment on meds. People often say, oh God, they've taken an easy route out. That's not a proper recovery. No, who cares what is a proper recovery? If they feel good, does it matter? Why does it matter? If someone's on meds and they feel good and their life's good, who gives a damn? I didn't take meds, okay? That was a personal choice I maybe should have. It would have made things easier. at different parts of the time of the journey. But who cares if someone's on meds or not? Doesn't matter if they're getting a benefit from it, so what? There's just the stigma of the view. It matters more to other people than it does to the individual taking them. So I couldn't care less about that. If you've got to be on meds for 10, 20 years, so what? Who cares? There's meds for them. That's going to have a severe impact on your life. Negatively, I think it's going to be more of a positive. I don't think people often worry, oh, is it very dangerous to be on them for that long? Very little evidence supporting that. Maybe some evidence, but I mean, the world's changing. New drugs will be coming out all the time. Technology is changing. Anxiety, OCD, and everything's getting treated better and better as the years progress. So I think you've got to just think of the judgment. Forget the judgment with meds. Who cares? You know, who cares? I've got some great guys that I've worked with, got really better, but have had problems with physical symptoms and so on, and take meds. Who cares? They've recovered enough. They're living well enough. They don't have to go completely off meds. Sometimes they say, oh, I feel so bad, I should be off the meds. I say, yeah, well, we'll come down. When they come down off the meds and they speak to their doctor, they start to often they prefer it to be on a lower dose of meds and feel better. But then others, some of them, they feel more balanced on them. Who cares? Why not? If you're good with them and it helps you and improves your life, so what? It can't be highlighted enough. I used to view it a bit like that in my own journey. I used to think, oh, meds was a sort of an easy way out. I should go through it. Why? It was just an irrational belief I had at the time. You know, like loads of irrational beliefs I had then. You know, I've been working with people for many years and seen so many different cases of OCD from every scenario you can imagine that people have OCD and other difficulties in life and challenges, and people's lives are hard. Some people's lives are very hard, and those meds can work wonders. I've seen people who were suicidal, didn't want to get out of bed, thought life was over, then take meds and change their whole life. You know, I've seen some amazing stories from meds, as I see some average stories, some negative stories, everything. But I've seen people go who were terrible physical symptoms, felt like their whole life was being destroyed, to getting on meds and feeling great. I've seen people's whole life turn around with them. I can think of various cases like that. So, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the natural route and doing loads of exercise. Nothing wrong with that either. Whatever works for you, whatever you want to try, it's fine. But it's the judgment on meds is still ridiculous, and it needs definitely more awareness on that. Guys, I won't be covering question answers on here today. I'll be doing that in the next YouTube video. I will see you then, and I will cover all your questions on there. All right, guys, I'll see you later.